warm welcome to State of Business on Art Television. I am Savindrija Vardhanam. Let's look at the top stories for the day. President's allegations on Lotus Tower are horrendous, says opposition leader. Minister Mangala Samaravira emphasizes that unnecessary control on the state-owned enterprises should be eliminated. News in detail. Opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa says that President Maithripala Sirisena's statement at the opening ceremony of the Colombo Lotus Tower on Monday is a horrendous insult to China. Issuing a statement to the media, he also adds that publicly insulting a major world power that has always been friendly and helpful to Sri Lanka is unconscionable. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the Colombo Lotus Tower, the president said that one of the Chinese contractors involved in the project, a company named Alit, had taken the advance payment of 2 billion rupees made by the Telecommunications Regulatory Authority and had disappeared. Clarifying over the allegation, the opposition leader said that the TRC had credited $15 million to the account of the main contractor, China National Electronics Corporation, as that is still the main contractor of the project. The former president and opposition leader also stressed that an advance payment of 2 billion rupees was never paid to the other contractor, Alit. The relevant documentation will show that from day one, all payments had been made to the accounts of China National Electronics Corporation. The opposition leader also added that the Lotus Tower can generate enormous revenues for the government by providing telephone, television and radio broadcasting services and also by attracting local and foreign tourists. And it is an excellent investment and amazing edifice that will symbolize Sri Lanka much like the Eiffel Tower in France. He also said that if the statement was made due to wrong information being conveyed, he expects the relevant individuals to move quickly to issue a correction. The former president further added that since all documents pertaining to the Lotus Tower project are available with the TRC and the Auditor General as attorney the truth with regard to this matter is not a difficult task at all. Minister of Finance Mangala Samaravira stresses that reconciliation while celebrating diversity is mandatory for the economic progress of the country. Addressing Sri Lanka Economic Summit 2019 held at Colombo yesterday, Minister noted that Sri Lanka's economic openness has immensely improved under the current government via mechanisms such as the free trade agreements.
In recalibrating our future, I believe reconciliation is an absolute necessity for economic development. There is no way of harnessing our potential as a modern, stable, prosperous nation except to celebrate the diversity of our nation as a multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and multilingual nation. In short, national unity is sine qua non for economic development. There can never be sustainable economic development without democracy and the rule of law. According to the World Bank, Sri Lanka's openness, which had increased in the 1980s and 1990s, took a turn for the worse after 2005, and by 2015, mainly as a result of rising para-tariffs, Sri Lanka was economically closed as it was in 1970s. Industrial exports fell from 20.3% of GDP in 2005 to 9.4% in 2015. Between 2005 and 2015, Sri Lanka did not sign a single FTA. Today, Sri Lanka has 6 FTAs, but we are still far behind our competitors. Thailand has 14, Malaysia 17, South Korea 16, and Singapore 25. This is one important reason for our failure to diversify exports beyond tea and apparel. We continue to export all products to all markets.
Addressing further, Minister Mangala Samaravira emphasized that urgent reforms such as eliminating unwanted control on the state-owned enterprises are necessary to further improve the country.
2 urgent reforms are also necessary. First, the state needs to cease to have operational control over state-owned enterprises operating in competitive markets. Chinese reformers often used to say, the state guides the market directs the enterprises. The state can remain an owner of assets without having operational control. It can list SOEs operating in competitive markets and use the listing proceeds to settle Sri Lanka's debts or invest in funds that track the Colombo Stock Exchange. Second, in the case of natural monopolies like railways, the state needs to create a holding company with a depoliticized board, for example, by subjecting such board appointments to Constitutional Council approval. Finally, our export sector has also been crippled by para-tariffs caused by businessmen influencing politicians. As envisioned in the budget, we need to go back to the simple, non-discretionary three-band tariff structure that we had in the early 1990s by eliminating all non-tariff barriers. This will depoliticize our border tax policy and bring huge benefits to exporters and consumers.
The Ceylon Chamber of Commerce launched the working draft of its 2020 to 25 Economic Acceleration Framework at the country's primary economic event, Sri Lanka Economic Summit 2019, that kicked off at Colombo yesterday morning with the participation of many local and international experts. The 19th Sri Lanka Economic Summit was an important forum for public dialogue that is instrumental for Sri Lanka's business, economic and policy-making calendar. This year, the summit was themed under recalibration of Sri Lanka's economic trajectory towards 2025. Accordingly, the framework was introduced by the chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, Dr. Hans Vijaysurya, during the title keynote session, which focused on recalibrating Sri Lanka's economic trajectory. The framework is a collective aspiration and action plan which will guide Sri Lanka's economy from an $89 billion economy to a $134 billion economy within a 5-year period. Thus, the working draft of the Ceylon Chamber's Economic Acceleration Report is now available online and can be found at seaf.chamber.lk. Stay tuned for more news after this break. Welcome back after the break. Delivering the introduction to Ceylon Chamber of Commerce 2020 to 25 Economic Acceleration Framework at Sri Lanka Economic Summit 2019, Chairman of CCC Dr. Hans Vijaysurya yesterday shared several key measures in order to escape from the middle income trap.
First, that we need to be determined to accelerate our escape. We will escape, but we need to accelerate our escape from the middle income trap, where increase of exports to match and surpass our imports, to generate sufficient surplus in order to fund our infrastructure, relying less on debt, to keep our output well ahead of consumption. And how do we do this? Through productivity improvements, innovation, and among others, export diversification. So this we believe as a primary objective, a primary aspiration of getting out of the 3 to 5% growth range, which is typical of the middle income trap. Today, Sri Lanka is the third lowest in terms of GDP growth in the region. But if we ride on the strengths that we discussed and aspire to move out of the middle income trap as soon as possible, we believe that we can reach the aspired to growth rate as well as the aspired to GDP by the year 2025.
CIPM Sri Lanka yesterday announced that it won the international bid to host the world's largest HR conclave in Colombo next year, as it was the turn of the Asia Pacific Federation of Human Resource Management to facilitate the event in the Asia Pacific region. Accordingly, the world's largest human resources conclave will be held in Colombo on the 6th to 8th of July next year, as organized by CIPM Sri Lanka in collaboration with the Asia Pacific Federation of Human Resource Management and the World Federation of People Management Associations. CIPM Sri Lanka President Dhammika Fernando, flanked by Secretary General of the World Federation of People Management Associations, Bob Morton, and several other dignitaries, said that over 2,000 people management professionals and business leaders from the country and overseas are expected to participate in this mega people management event. Thus, the World Congress in Colombo will be themed as Exalting People Professionals, Explore, Expand and Excel in order to encourage and energize people professionals in the increasingly strategic role that they play in their organizations. The World Congress, HR Congress 2020, also coincides with CIPM Sri Lanka's 60th anniversary.
The world fraternity converged to Sri Lanka during this conclave, and there is a lot of networking opportunities. And what we do is that always in a conference that we share new knowledge, we share the new vistas, new developments in the discipline, the people management discipline. So this is where you all are benefiting, because there will be world-renowned speakers who are going to bring in new knowledge, the new theories or probably new practices to the fora. And that is where the whole, the participants, the delegates will be benefiting, and then the networking opportunities as well. And also for Sri Lanka, that is one of the best tourist attractions.
Secretary General of the World Federation of People Management Associations, Bob Morton, commends Sri Lanka's efforts in improving the provision of human resource development not only in the country but also in the region. Speaking at a media briefing to announce the world's largest HR conclave, which will be held in next year, Bob Morton also highlighted that Sri Lanka has successfully won over the confidence after Easter Sunday attacks by changing negative perceptions.
But I just want to emphasise what a robust process that the World Federation goes through to appoint its conference hosts. And one of the reasons that CIPM and Sri Lanka were chosen was because of their long-standing record in developing the profession of human resources in Sri Lanka. Not only are they a robust organisation, they've developed their qualifications, they've developed the various programmes they run, but also they've lifted the profession, both in Sri Lanka and actually in the region. And that goes a long way from the World Federation's point of view. Earlier this year, of course, it was a difficult time for Sri Lanka. And Sri Lanka, I think, did a terrific job in managing not just internally, but their external perceptions in the world at large. And we were able to convince the World Federation Board that, these things happen. We know the security levels are excellent here, so we wanted to go ahead. So against that background, that was a double challenge. Not only did you have a robust tender process, but you had these events taking place. And Sri Lanka have come through that, I think, with flying colours.
Noting that human development is vital to attain economic development, former Indian Minister of Commerce and Industry and Civil Aviation Sri Suresh Prabhu emphasizes that Sri Lanka's status of human resource development is best in the region. Former Indian Minister Sri Suresh Prabhu made these observations at Sri Lanka Economic Summit 2019 yesterday.
One of the biggest advantages of Sri Lanka is the human capital, which I mentioned. In fact, it has been seen globally. If you want to bring in economic development, it should be preceded by social development. The social development, the human development parameters of Sri Lanka has always been the best in the region and one of the best comparable to the rest of the world. Therefore, when the human capital is so strong, you can always leverage it to bring in higher economic growth. Some countries make economic growth, try to use those resources, put it back into social development, and then hope that economic development will come. Whereas in Sri Lanka, this already happened. And therefore, I'm very happy that we are at a time when Sri Lanka is poised for a great economic growth based on its natural capital as well as human capital. Leveraging it will be the best strategy for Sri Lanka, and I'm sure that will insulate it from the rest of the world, which is going to suffer a huge, unforeseen, and probably unpredictable territory.
Stay tuned for stock updates after this break. Welcome back after the break. The trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a negative note today. The all-share price index dropped 3.56 points to close at 5,807.51 and the S&P SL 20 dropped 8.55 points to close at 2,778.05. The turnover was 709 million rupees and over 20 million shares were traded. Up next are forex rates. That's all news for today. Do join us tomorrow with State of Business. Until then, take care. Good night.